So how do you create a brand that truly represents who you are and the products you sell, as well as building a business that you can scale online? That is what this podcast will help you do. My name is Henry Kaminski Jr., and welcome to the Brand Doctor Podcast.
Let me just make this statement loud and clear. Jersey's here, Jersey's here.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Brand Doctor Podcast episode. We got another guest for you today. This guy is quite the amazing success story. This guy has been talked about by John Elway, Jack Canfield, Bob Proctor. I mean, and the list goes on and on and on. And he had sent me his books, two of his books before this episode. And I got to tell you, I read it in a day. I was telling him offline before the show. I said, this book right here, Mach 2 with Your Hair on Fire, How to Master Self-Motivation and Stay on Fire for Life, was a book I just really couldn't put down. I mean, it keeps you busy. So without further ado, I want to introduce my man, Richard Bliss Brooke, to the show. What is going on, my man?
Hey,
I got the sound effects and everything. You got
I get a standing ovation.
You got the ovation. Oh, man. So for the folks that don't know who Richard Bliss Brooke is, I would love to have you sort of give us the short of it, but your backstory on how you've been able to build 3 multi-million-dollar businesses, you know, out of the comfort of your home out there in beautiful Hawaii.
Well, I've only been in Hawaii 6 years. I built those 3 companies living all over the United States. And the short story of the backstory, Henry, is I just kept, as they say, failing forward. So if you look at my resume, I believe all it does is highlight the high points, right? It highlights the successes, but maybe resumes would be more interesting if they highlighted the 10 failures for every success that you had. And I have had a great deal of failure, and I credit my mastery of self-motivation with having me just keep getting up, recreating, reinventing, pivoting, whatever it took. You know, sometimes it took like, okay, I'm not ever going to do that anymore. I'm going to go over here and do this. And sometimes it just took, you know, getting better at what I was doing. So I actually got some traction in it. But my story is 44 years ago, I was working in a chicken factory in Central California. I was cutting up chickens for a living. I actually liked it. And I didn't know what vision was back then, but I had a vision for I was going to spend the next 40 years at the chicken plant, and I was going to work my way up, and someday maybe I would run the chicken plant. And then the chicken plant came out with a corporate policy that said you can't advance any further in any department unless you have a 4-year college degree. And I cheated to get out of high school. So I didn't have any college, and I wasn't going to college. And so I had to pivot, and that's how I ended up in business, which was, you know, I don't know how it's kind of a crazy pivot because I had no acclamation or interest in business or sales or people or any of that. I was quite the introvert and didn't know anything about business or finance or sales or money or any of those things. But I learned and failed my way forward. And yeah, so fast forward 44 years later, I live on the island of Lanai. Larry Ellison is my neighbor, lives right behind me. He's worth 60 or 70 billion dollars. So I just let some of that energy bleed off on me.
Run off on your lawn.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
It.
That's awesome. So I want to talk about specifically to, we're talking about self-motivation here and things like that. And one of the things in your book that like really made me kind of stop in my tracks and rethink a lot of things, in my life was vision and having a vision. And it's just the way you presented that whole concept of having a vision was very interesting to me. And I want to dive into that right after this quick little message. If you're a business owner who wants to significantly grow your audience online and needs help dialing in your message to attract the right clients, check out this free video training that will help you position yourself more effectively and improve your brand's online presence. Visit www.uniquedesigns with a Z at the end, not an S, .net/brand strategy. All right, so let's get into vision, okay? Now, you say that it's a vision is already inside of you, and you just need to figure out how to pull it out and acknowledge it and leverage it. So I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to let you take it from here.
Well, a couple of distinctions about vision. So I started studying and teaching this concept 35 years ago. And I wrote the book Mach 2 actually in 1995. So most people look at that book and they think, oh, he just wrote that book. No, I wrote it over 25 years ago. And 25 years ago, I called what I describe as vision. And I went through a seminar and I had a coach, and, he just gave me all these new distinctions that were breakthroughs for me. And I couldn't find these distinctions anywhere in educational material. And that's why I wrote the book, is just to really encapsulate what I'd learned so that I could keep learning it and teach it, and maybe other people could learn it the way I learned it. And one of the big distinctions that I got, Henry, was I always thought that if you and I wanted something bad enough, if we had, like Think and Grow Rich said, a white hot burning desire for something, then we would, work towards getting it. Mm-hmm. And what I found in working with people is I met all kinds of people all over the world that had a white hot burning desire for something, but they weren't any closer to getting it. And the reason for that is there's a distinction, even in language, between a desire. So a desire is languaged as, I want something really bad. Mm. The problem with that languaging is it affirms that you don't have it. It affirms the gap, right? And so what I learned from several of my mentors was if you want to trigger the subconscious mind, if you want to unleash the emotional power that you and I have, the intuitive power, the gut, the spiritual power, you can't affirm that you don't have something and you want it. That just keeps you separate from it. You have to actually affirm that you have it already, which is kind of one of the reasons people don't get traction with this work is, they start to do vision work or affirmation work and they say, oh, I'm just lying to myself, and so that feels icky and I don't want to do it. But, here's another piece that I learned, which was like, oh my gosh, if everybody knew this, they'd want to practice this. The part of us that's powerful. Now, I'll separate it this way. There's the conscious mind, which kind of understands the difference between right and wrong, memorizes the answers to the test, does the job interview, understands the standard operating procedure of the job, goes through the job just well enough to keep from getting fired. Right? That's kind of what the conscious mind does in life. And what's that worth? Oh, maybe $50, $100, maybe $200,000 a year in terms of, low-level operation. But the part of us that moves mountains, the part of us like you think about Mahatma Gandhi or Martin Luther King or John F. Kennedy, just with words and passion and vision moves millions of people. The part of us that can go from being a chicken chopper to a multi-millionaire. That's not the conscious mind. That's the unconscious mind. That's the spiritual part of us. That's the emotional part of us, the intuition part of us. Here's like a secret, like a secret sauce, is that part of us cannot tell the difference between a real experience and an experience just vividly imagined. So if you take, for example, the affirmation, the vision of whatever it is you want, and language it that you already have it, and you watch that video, you watch that movie, to the part of you and I that's powerful, it is as though it just happened. Now, of course, the conscious mind knows it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And the conscious mind is the one that actually talks us out of transformation. It's the one that says, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And who are you to think you can do that? And people are going to think you're trying to be better than them. And, oh, if you make all that money, you'll just pay a lot of, all this ridiculous stuff. That's what the conscious mind's job is to maintain the status quo. But the subconscious mind, the spiritual part of you and I, is designed to manifest anything that is worthwhile that you and I can imagine. That's its job, is to manifest that for us. And how we teach it to manifest it is to teach the part of us that's powerful that we deserve this. We already have it. Like, it's who we are. It's our identity. So let's, we'll just put it in the terms of money, right? It's probably the worst example, but it's the easiest, right? If you want to be a millionaire, you can't walk around the planet with the identity of poverty or a victim or somebody who's trying and struggling and, won't ever give up, that kind of identity. You want to become a millionaire, you have to have the identity, like how you see yourself, your self-image, your self-esteem, your vision. You have to have the identity of a millionaire. You have to move like a millionaire. You have to think like a millionaire. You have to listen like a millionaire. You have to talk like a millionaire. You have to overcome adversity like a millionaire. You have to negotiate like a millionaire. You got to sell like a millionaire, right? And act as though. And that's how you manifest. And so that's kind of the essence of the difference between goal setting, which is a really powerful technology, right? People that commit their goals to writing and have a plan for attainment, they're 10 to 100 times more successful than people that don't do that. But there's a gigantic difference between goal setting, which is basically writing down on paper or somewhere, I don't have something I want. Therefore, my identity is I'm basically a wannabe. That's my identity. There's a big difference between that and creating a vision of, yes, I want this, and it is who I am. It's how I roll. It's my state of being. It's what I deserve. And you can teach the part of you that's powerful to rise up and claim that identity through vision work. And when you and I have a crystal clear vision, what pours out of us is the motivation to do the work. And, that's really the missing gap in anything, right? You know this. A big part of your audience knows this. The difference between where you are now and where you want to go is daily actions. Do what you need to do every day and compound that consistency. And to do that takes motivation. And to have the motivation, you got to have the identity. You got to have the vision. And so that's what the book is about, is how to do that, like a master plan for how to manage your mind.
Yeah, man, this is so good. I mean, you break it down in that one chapter. It's like, who do you want to be? What do you want to do? What do you want to have? And write it down and create. You recommend really getting into it and writing down 100 things per section, per vertical, and watch what happens during that process. I'm a big process guy. Like, I love seeing things. Like, I love what I'm going to become when I go through the process. I'm going to enjoy that probably more than I'm going to enjoy the end result. right? I always say, so I go on these morning walks every morning. As soon as I get up, just get out, get moving, right? And get that personal development in, early in the morning. And I live in a pretty big development, and it comes to a Y at one of the blocks over here, right? And if you go left, you got to go up this big ass hill. And if you go straight, it's downhill, right? And I've never done this yet, but I wanted to do an Instagram story like in front of the Y and be like, which way do you think I'm going to go? Left or right? Right? What do you think I'm going to learn? Or what do you think I'm going to become if I go right and go down the hill versus what I'm going to be when I go left and I go up the hill? What is that going to make me? Right? And like, I never did it, and I should do it, but it's the first time I'm actually even talking about this. But it's the same thing you're saying. I mean, you have to you have to become in order to experience what it is that you want. And listen, I wouldn't be living in this house. I wouldn't be living the life that I live not thinking that way, But here's something that I want to talk about because it's real right now. And I think that there's other people out there that could resonate with what I'm about to say. Okay. So what you just said is absolutely amazing, and I believe it wholeheartedly, right? But there comes times in your life where you feel like you're losing momentum. You're second guessing everything. You're saying to yourself, oh, you thought you were that good, but look at these guys. And you start comparing. It's an entrepreneur's worst. It's like kryptonite to an entrepreneur, right? You think you got it going on, and then you look and, their Facebook group has 30,000 people in it and yours has 500, right? And you're comparing, and it's so easy to let that spiral out of control, right? There may be some people that are in the middle of a pivot right now due to COVID and stuff, right? We just reworked my ecosystem for our business last week, right? So things feel very uncomfortable right now. Things feel very unstable because it's like, oh, we're trying something new here. This could be a complete failure, or it could be exactly what our audience wants right now, right? So what happens is we go down this path and we start letting all of these beliefs and these thoughts really start to pick up some steam. And then the entrepreneur feels like they're in this straitjacket.
Yep.
They don't want to feel that way. And it's like, I honestly to God right now, Rich, honest to God, I'm not in the best mood. And I'll be honest with you, I almost canceled this interview because I wasn't I just didn't want to talk to anybody today. I'm going to be honest with you. Right. And I said, there's no way I'm canceling this because I'm talking to the right man at the right time. Okay. So hear me out. Right now, I literally feel like the elephant that has the rope around its neck with the little, stake in the ground, right? That feels like he can't move because he's locked into that stake, right? And I don't know where this came from. Just ever since we did the reworking of my ecosystem, I feel super uncomfortable. And I got to tell you, I had a horrible outlash this morning. I was like, my business sucks. Why am I doing this? I should be, maybe I should just mow lawns for the rest of my life. And so it's just simple work. I punch a fucking clock and I'm in and out, and I don't have to worry about this shit anymore. And my wife came down and she heard me talking like this. She comes down and goes, what are you talking about? And I said, I'm just not in a good mood today. Right. And I don't know how this is all coming out on a live stream and on an episode that we're going to publish, but this is the real Henry, right? And I know I'm not alone because I've had clients come to me and say, Henry, this is why we're hiring you, right? Because we need your help, right? And so that's what I wanted to just get out into the universe right now, especially in front of a man like you that I know could may have an answer to this or may have a different like a recalibration here for me. But man, I got to tell you, I really feel like I'm in this straitjacket and I want to bust out, but there's like something that's just holding me in.
Yeah. Well, a couple things I would say about that. One is that we've all heard that comparison is the thief of joy. And what we're taught as kids, which is really not a healthy value, even though it's just permeated all through life, especially in sports, is that who we're supposed to be as kids and then grow up as adults is we're supposed to be winners. And the way we define winners is that we beat other people. So we throw ourselves in competition with other people. It starts in school. It starts in sports. You know, we grow up. We have our favorite sports team, right? And it's all about beating the other teams. And so it's deeply ingrained in us that the way we define ourselves as winners is by beating other people. But if you think about it, the other people also grew up that way, right? The other sports team, believe it or not, wants to beat you just as much as you want to beat them. The other podcaster wants to beat you as much as you want to beat them. And if there's, 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 people competing, what are the odds that you're going to prosper long-term in that culture? They're horrible. Now, if you happen to be like a maniac competitor and you have skills, you can win some competitions, you can win some races, you can have the biggest Facebook group for a while, right? For a while, until somebody comes along who kicks your ass. Mm-hmm. They're younger, they're smarter, they're more ambitious, they're whatever, right? And so if you I'm a pilot, and there's a cliche in flying that says there are old pilots and there are bold pilots. But there are no old, bold pilots. You can capture that. And how I apply that to business is being competitive is a bold strategy. It's reckless because you can't win long term. Somebody's always going to come along and knock you off the throne. Mm-hmm. And most days, if you're competitive, most days, if the way you have it set up is, I've got to beat someone else to win or be a winner, well, then you're going to spend most of your days, 99.9% of your days, a loser. Even if on the one day you become a winner, you win, you beat somebody, you win the contest, well, 99% of the time you're a loser because you haven't won yet. But the reality is 90% of the time you're not going to win, somebody else is going to win. It's a really bad strategy for having a healthy, motivated identity. Here's a better one. Instead of competing with other people, collaborate with them. And you don't have to meet with them to collaborate with them. You could just study what other people are doing. And instead of having the orientation of, I've got to beat them to be a winner, how about you have the story, I've got to learn from them so I can compete with myself. Because this is how winners win long term, is they don't pay attention to what anybody else is doing except to learn from them. And what they compete with is what they did yesterday, last week, last month, last year. Like if the only person you and I compete with is ourselves, such that our journey has us get better. Better every week, better every month, better every year. And of course, we've all seen the graphic. What does success look like? You start here, you end up here, and it's like, this mess. It's not this.
Right.
It's a mess to get from point A to point B. And so you have to have the resiliency and the patience and the self-esteem to get where you want to go. So that's the first thing I would tell you about the thinking you're having. The second thing I would tell you is, you said, Henry, you don't know where it came from. So I'll tell you where it came from, and it might give you some access to do something about it. You just made it up. All that crap you spewed about 5 minutes ago, you made it all up. You made up the doubt. You made up the questions. You made up the self-deprecating comments, if that's the right word. You made it all up. And so, hey, pay attention, man, because the part of you that's powerful can't tell the difference between a real experience and one vividly imagined. And if you're vividly imagining that you suck, well, that's what you're feeding the part of you that's powerful. So since you made it up anyway, so I'll ask you some questions that might flush out. So Henry, when it comes to branding and coaching people on branding, are you lousy, mediocre, or excellent? Pick one.
Excellent.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So how about we drive that pillar deep into the ground as a foundation, right? Mm-hmm. When it comes to creativity, Henry, are you mediocre? Are you lousy, mediocre, or excellent?
Excellent.
Yeah, you sure?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. When it comes to being influential, are you lousy, mediocre, or excellent?
Excellent.
When it comes to work ethic and energy, lousy, mediocre, or excellent?
Excellent.
When it comes to sense of humor, lousy, mediocre, or excellent?
I would think excellent. Excellent. Ask my wife. She may say mediocre.
Yeah, they all do, but they don't get it, right? So when it comes to resiliency, like your ability to dig in, suffer through it if you have to, grind it out, whatever it takes, lousy, mediocre, or excellent?
Excellent.
When it comes to gratitude and empathy, like lousy, mediocre, or excellent?
Excellent.
And notice how, see, this is what I listen for, Henry. I listen for truth. And what you spoke in answer to those questions was truth, right? You didn't well, I don't know, kind of, sometimes I am and sometimes I'm not, I'm not sure. I want to be, but hey, what I heard was bedrock, right? And so if you're going to make something up that empowers you. So yes, the same person who can say I'm excellent on a bad day can make up that they suck, that maybe they're not as good as they once thought they were, that other people are better. They can make up, why are other people killing it and I'm reinventing, right?
Yeah.
They can make up, we can all make those kinds of things up. And so what I say is if you're going to make something up that empowers you, make something up that's aligned with who you really are. I basically tell people in deeper one-on-one coaching, there's two of us. There's the petulant child who's stuck at about age 5, who either acts out all kinds of anger and resentment and competitiveness and, victimhood, and they rebel against the universe. Or they act out that nobody likes them and they're not enough. And, they just basically act out not being emotionally developed. They're a 5-year-old and yet they're 35 years old, but they're acting like a 5-year-old. And once you see this distinction, you can look out in the world of adults and you can see the adults that are 35, 45, 55, 65, 75, that are acting like 5-year-olds, because that's a part of us. There's another part of us and I call the 5-year-old the petulant child, or your C game, right? So you can either bring your C game to life and your projects, or you can bring your A game. So I could have asked you, Henry, are there times, Henry, where you just play poor me and want people to feel sorry for you and give you attention?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Are there times where you don't take 100% responsibility for your work ethic and your performance and you blame it on other people?
I actually, Rich, no. I do take responsibility. Maybe a few years ago, yes, I will say yes. Okay. But lately, I will say no. I take responsibility if it was me, it's me. You know.
How about in your relationship with your wife? What would your wife say? Do you take 100% responsibility?
No. No.
I don't think any of us can answer a good answer to that. So the point is, we all have a C game. And the questions I asked you earlier were questions about your A game.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to feed the part of you that manifests greatness, you got to feed that part your A game. You got to clearly stay connected to your A game. It is truth, but you also have to continue to affirm it in vision and affirmation and study it. So you're empowering constantly your A game, because we have both games. And left to our own devices, we'll play both. We'll bring both players to the game. And sometimes we put the C player in and sometimes we put the A player in. And if we wonder why, hey, I've been working at this project or whatever it is for 4 years now, watching it, it's because you're not paying attention to how often you send the C player in. You send the whining victim, putting the responsibility somewhere else. Woe is me. Other people are doing better. Life's not fair. Right?
Yeah.
That's the C player. That's the whiny little kid that everybody that brings their A game really just wants to run over on the field.
Right. They get stomped out. Right.
They get stomped out because A players can't stand to be around C players. They don't want them on the same field.
Such a great point.
You know, I'm 65 and I'm still a pilot. I don't fly much, but, you know, I plan on being able to fly until I'm 85 years old. I'm playing the long game. I've already been in business 44 years. I'm not even half done. I play in the long game. You cannot compete with other people. You cannot compare yourself to other people because they're all sprinting. They're playing the short game. And people, when they sprint, they're going to outrun you if you're playing the long game. But I don't want to play a short game. I don't want to burn out. I don't want to be a one-hit wonder. I don't want to have like one decade that was great followed by 3 decades of trying to get back there. I want my mess to start off low and end up high for a 50 or 60-year span. And in order to do that, cannot compete with other people, can only compete with me. And what I use other people that are winning at the moment, I use them for inspiration and collaboration.
And it's fantastic messaging. I think that was, and that's why I didn't want to cancel this episode. That's why I just knew the feeling. I said, I got to talk to him today. It's gonna recharge the entire day, and I just knew it. And I know when I get in those funks, like it's this whole C game. I love how you differentiated that, and it's easy. I won't speak for everybody, but for me, it's easy to slip into that C game. And I think self-awareness and just being able to find what triggered that and say, okay, well, we're not playing this game today. Otherwise, we'll sit the bench. All right? We're going to play the A game and get back out there. And I think that's huge, man. That's so good. That's awesome. I'm hoping that I'm not the only one here today that's receiving this, because I know there's other folks out there that are going through the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got 100 entrepreneurs that are watching this, the odds are 90 of them are struggling. right? It's the nature of the beast, right? We're all swimming upstream. We're all doing something that hardly anybody is willing to do or can sustain the motivation to do. And so we have to bring our A game, because being a successful entrepreneur is not easy. People aren't going to hand it to us. And, if we have competitors, our competitors certainly aren't going to hand it to us.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
They're trying to take it away from us.
That's right.
So if we want to win, we have to take the answers to the questions I asked you, and I just made those up. Those aren't standard questions, but all I was looking to do was find out, in your heart of hearts, is there an A game in there that's worth playing? And you have it. I knew you had it, or you wouldn't be who you are doing what you're doing, right? Mm-hmm. You can get there by accident. You're playing your A game. Mm-hmm. So if we'll just surround ourselves, our environment, with our A game attributes, reminding ourselves of who we are, what we're up to, why we're up to it, and what we bring to the party when we bring our best self. If we keep those affirmations, those visual cues, that vision board, if we keep that the ultimate expression of a vision is a video. It's a movie. If we keep that movie in front of us, like you've got this awesome introduction movie to your podcast, Henry, and you've got this awesome promotional video about your work, create an awesome video about who Henry's A game is and watch that every day. And you'll never slip back.
That's awesome. And it's funny, that video is actually made. I don't watch it as often as I should. I'll be honest with you. It's on my YouTube channel. I'm going to start watching that in the morning. It makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. And dude, I got to tell you, I really appreciate you, because I literally feel like 1,000 pounds have been lifted, and I feel like I'm not in that jacket anymore. And it's our thinking, it's our thoughts, it's our actions. Like, I could get off this episode, I could finish this show and go mope around for the rest of the day, or I could say, no, we're going to make the best of this day. Your son's coming home, and we're going to have a great evening, with the family. And, we did the best we can, and we got from the day as much as we could. And you look at like all of that stuff, half full, half empty type stuff. Right. And you just keep going. But, here's another thing that a big takeaway, and then we'll start to wrap up, is what you talked about when you said long game, short game. When I get into these moods, it's me completely playing a short game. When I take a step back and go, Henry, what are you worried about? You're not going anywhere, right? Look the long term here. This is just another one of your pivots or moves. Like, if you keep doing the same thing over and over, you're going to get the same result. So if nothing changes, nothing changes. And I'm a firm believer on that, but I forget sometimes, or I don't bring it up as much as I should. I don't affirm it as much as I should. And these are just all great reminders. So such great stuff, Richard. When the Todd Armstrong, when he said, you're coming on the show, he said, you two are going to knock it out of the park. And I so appreciate you.
I'm inspired by your honesty, your vulnerability. That actually takes great courage, really high self-esteem, really high confidence, a real powerful identity, a self-identity, in order to share that you're in a funk on your own podcast.
I know a lot of people might be shaking their heads going, why the hell we follow this guy?
You need to follow this guy because he has the courage to tell the truth about what all of us are trying to hide. See, if you try to hide it, well, it just persists, right? What you want to do is shine light on it. right? How you kill off all that negativity is shine light on it. And you can't shine the light yourself. The only light is to share it with other people, expose it, put it out there in the world, and then boom, it gets zapped.
Yeah.
I promise you, Henry, you're going to have a great rest of the day, not because of what I said, but because of what you said. Because once you speak that vulnerability, it just goes away. And one of the reasons it goes away is because you're speaking, you're giving an opportunity to kind of speak truth to power, where you speak all this BS, this, I don't know about this. I doubt this. What if this happens? Oh my gosh, other people are doing better, right? But truth knows the difference. And when you expose that BS to the light just kills it. And so it's a powerful thing, not to affirm it, but to share it with somebody. Hey, this is actually a coaching moment, and we all need to rely on coaches. I mean, the number one investment I've made in my career is coaches. People that they didn't have to be smarter than me. They didn't have to be more successful than me, but they could hear my BS and they could call on me to speak my A game. Just make that. And those are invaluable people to have in our lives, because it's really hard to coach yourself, right? I'm not even sure the distinction coaching ever applies to coaching oneself.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
It's tough. Yeah, because you can't see the outside of the bottle. You can't see the outside of the label when you're inside the bottle. And I'm a firm believer of that. I want to start to wrap up because I value your time, and I know you got other stuff to do today besides talk to a bald guy from New Jersey. So one of the things that Bob Proctor said in one of the videos that I recently was watching, it's crazy. I'm down 14 pounds since Halloween. And one of the things that Bob said a few weeks ago in this video, he says, if you want to lose weight, don't focus on losing the weight. Focus on that version of yourself that you want to be again. Right. And it was crazy because it was that day or day before, a couple days, whatever. There was a picture that showed up on my memories in Facebook from 9 years ago on my honeymoon in Barcelona, Spain. And me and my wife look like, the best we ever did in our entire lives. Right. I was 30 years old and I was like, I want to look like that again. Just because I'm 40 doesn't mean I can't look like that again. And like that, 14 pounds shed, and I got another 10 to go and I'm good, right? And I'll be right where I need to be. Yeah. And just take that story, guys, and apply it wherever it needs to go in your life or in your business. Because you could get so caught up like I just did over the past couple of days, like I just talked about, and get caught up in that C game and get caught up in that short-term mentality and that scarcity mindset, and shake it off. Just understand, envision where you want to be, and let the wind be behind you and guide you along your way. So, Rich, I don't know if I don't know if people call you Rich. People from Jersey like to abbreviate names and not ask permission.
Yeah, everybody from New Jersey calls me Rich.
So actually, I apologize.
One of my mentors a long time ago, he's passed away now, Jerry Siciliano, he nicknamed me Richie Rich, which I thought was a pretty good affirmation, but I don't think he meant it from a wealth standpoint. It was just sort of a Jersey nickname.
I've gotten my ass handed to me a few times when I would abbreviate names and people are like, no, it's Jason. And I'm like, okay. My apologies. Yeah. So Richard,
I don't have a thing about my name.
Okay, cool. So Richard, where can people learn more about you? Where can we send people to learn more about you and follow your journey?
Well, one place they can follow me is I go live on Facebook every day. at Richard Bliss Brooke. That's my business page on Facebook, distinct from my personal page. And I walk the cliffs or someplace here in Lanai and talk for 5 or 10 minutes about some distinction of wisdom and wit. That's called Daily Dose of Salt. The biggest place they can learn more about what I'm doing is my website, which is richardbrooke.com. Simple and easy. That's the best 2 places to find me.
Beautiful.
I have an Instagram account, but I don't know anything about it.
It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to be everywhere. But so guys, I highly recommend. So, and he has this book out, and it's called Mach 2 with Your Hair on Fire: How to Master Self-Motivation and Stay on Fire for Life. I read this book in a day, guys. It's that awesome of a read. I literally couldn't put it down. I highly recommend you get that book. And he's got another book too that he sent me. Hold on 1 second.
Those are on Amazon and Audible if people want those options.
Yeah, the 4-year career. I haven't broken this one yet, but definitely check out his book. Richard has such an awesome and genuine backstory. And God, you could just see what he did today on today's episode. You know, the man really knows, you know, what he's talking about and where he wants to go. And he's such an inspiration for me. And I just want to thank you again, Richard, for coming on and sharing your wisdom and helping me, honestly, just helping me with the day.
Well, you're absolutely welcome, Henry. It's a great honor. Awesome to meet you. I love your energy. You're a super fun guy.
I try to keep it that way.
I don't know if we'll ever do business together, but we can have fun having a beer together. I know that.
I would love to. My wife wants to come to Hawaii for our 10-year. So, hey. Yeah, we might be in your neck of the woods next year. So, if so, I will definitely be reaching out.
Yeah, do that. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Love to host you here.
Awesome. Richard, thanks so much.
Henry.
Take care.
Hey everyone, this is Henry Kaminski Jr. again, and really quick, I want to invite you to a one-on-one consult with me right now if you're looking for the clarity and focus you need to build your brand. Over the past 13 years, I've served hundreds of entrepreneurs that have great products but struggled tremendously with articulating its value to their ideal customers. You didn't get into business to just change a few lives, did you? Your ideal clients need you. And when your brand has precision-crafted messaging coupled with beautifully thoughtful design that sounds, looks, and feels like you, they'll know you're the perfect match for them. If this is something you're struggling with, what I want you to do right now is pause this audio and go visit www.uniquedesigns with a Z at the end, not an S, .net, and book your one-on-one consult call with me. Remember, the quality of your brand will determine the quality of your clients, and the quality of your clients will determine the quality of your life.